Hey, and welcome back, all you tech dads and tech moms, to Ask Tech Dad. I'm Brian.
And I'm John.
And today we've got a really, really cool podcast for you. It's a little bit different than the last ones we had where we were talking about limiting and disconnecting and, how to pull back on things. And we're going to talk about how
The
to connect.
exact opposite.
That's right. How to connect with your kids through technology. Some fun and interesting ways that you can connect with your kids and your family through technology.
I see you got a connectoration on there.
That's right. We got a connectoration with the kiddos.
Yeah, connect and communication, connectoration.
That's right. That's right.
That's nice and original. I don't think that's what they meant when they said original content.
Maybe it is, but it's definitely not a keyword anybody's looking for.
But something that is definitely original is we're encouraging technology today and how to bond with your kids and have some fun with technology. You know, the dive in, I guess, feet first.
Yeah. Well, and something that I think you and I can agree on as parents is there's nothing that replaces time. Time spent with the kids is worth more than any gift. And quite frankly, time is a gift to itself.
I think it makes the difference, honestly, Brian. I think that engagement, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. It really doesn't. Whether you're playing a board game, you're playing ball, you're throwing the football outside or a baseball. You take a walk together. You guys go biking together. You watch a movie together. It really doesn't matter what creates those memories. Is that time.
Yeah, for sure. So today we're going to talk about some of the things that we do to spend time with our kids and our families with technology. And I know, John, you're kind of a gamer, and you guys game at your house. So tell me about some of the things that you guys do to connect and have fun at your house.
Well, there are tons of them, and it's not all online, but we're really focusing on that. And I do want to make that distinction that you can't do everything. Too much of anything is bad for you. But there is a decent amount of time given to games. Now, they have games that they play by themselves, but we really enjoy together first-person shooters and real-time strategy games. How about you? I know you've gotten some games off, and I think some of what you're talking about is more phone-related, which is a lot easier if you don't have consoles and stuff.
So we've got a couple of cool things that we've done at our house. There are some multiplayer games that my family and I will actually play together as a team. And man, that's really fun when you come together as a team. Yeah, it's like a family, and you play against some other folks or whatnot. So one of the games that we played is Among Us. So we would get everybody down in the living room, and we would play Among Us, and we would be quiet about who it was or what, but at the same time, there was always this kind of sneaky, like, hey, we're kind of playing together, or hey, we're going to go out and get dad, whatever that is, whatever their goal is. But it was really fun to connect. And one of the neat things that have come about that and some of our gaming is, our family through this has its own language. Like everybody is going out and saying you're sus or whatever. But there's another game that we play that is a famous card game.
Poker?
No, I don't take all the kids' money all the time. But it's actually called Exploding Kittens. And it's a really fun card game if you play the card game. And we learned about the card game through my son's Boy Scout troop. And then I was just looking up online to see if there was a digital game. And sure enough, there was. And we get online and we play that against each other. And it's a really cool way because they gamified, the characters and whatnot of the actual game itself. And, like, eat your kale. We will go around and say that in the house when somebody does something. But we have our own language. We've connected through that, and it's been really fun to share that experience of online, strategy. Hey, you got one up or whatever that, there's
some really good team games for that. Blizzard makes a number of games. Overwatch, there's Apex is a big first person shooter. I tend to find that first person shooters can be a little frustrating. I had to have a conversation with my kids that, when they're shooting the gun, there isn't actually a projectile or any physics involved in hitting that character. There's a lot of little ones and zeros.
You're talking about the magic bullet?
Yeah, basically. And I mean, they have to understand, because sometimes you'll feel like, hey, that's the exact same. Your brain's telling you, I've done the exact same thing. My little reticle or whatever is right on them, and I've shot them, and it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because of lag. It didn't have. Everybody's had rubber banding back and forth, and watching them get frustrated.
And guys, for all of you non-tech people, lag is an amount of time that it takes for an input or a click to actually register with the server. So the information has to go through the internet, and if you don't have a good internet connection, the time that it takes to go back to whatever game server and then come back to you. If it's too long, that's where lag is. So if you've ever watched a video that's like, eep, 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 it's actually lagging. It's trying to get that.
What was it like again?
Eep, 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 eep.
Well, rubber banding's very similar. It's where the server resets you back to where you were last seen. So you just seem to bounce back and forth. So you run up, you kill somebody, and you're back. He's still alive.
Teleport.
There's a lot of interesting stuff, but what really came out, and so I was just saying the first person shooters weren't my favorite. We also had some very contentious games. We played some console games, some injustice fighting games. And when I was growing up, I was real big into Street Fighter and, some of those. And I began to notice some behavioral patterns, some upsetness with losing, some just straight cold-heartedness with winning. And I quickly saw that it was coming from me. I mean, I did not take it easy on them. I was not there to kid glove them at all. I demoralized and beat them. And they picked up some of my worst habits. And I only really came to understand this and how bad it was, because it was easy to counsel them and say, hey, listen, you're getting upset. It's over a video game. It doesn't really matter. Let's play one for fun. We don't care. Look, I'm just jumping in the corner. And I thought I did a pretty good job of that until my oldest got old enough to start whooping me. And if you have ever been a gamer who's aged, you suddenly decide that your reflexes aren't what they used to be. And, so
thumbs
now
aren't as fast.
Yeah, that 13-year-old was schooling me, and I got a little hot. I could feel it internally. And
he shouldn't be beating you.
And it was just that realization.
Years have you played these games?
That wasn't that they didn't handle video games that well, or did I really? I'm sitting here counseling them, but it's easy to say when you were winning. So definitely a highlight moment, and we all got to address it. And I use that as the same thing. Like, listen, it gets me mad, but you know what I'm going to do at this point?
Yeah,
I'm going to take a break. I'm going to walk away for a second, and I was able to
kind of rage quit.
Stuff. Now, we've still had ones. My poor girlfriend is sat there sometimes listening to us play. And I mean, it goes off. We have to limit how long we play very highly competitive games.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed that that's not the case when you're playing together as a team. And now you're all focused together, whether you're playing.
And you're just trying to get better.
Right. And I noticed that with some real-time strategy like StarCraft 2, we were playing some of those.
Yeah, my son and I played that together, and we have a great time with that as a team. And we're, he's got a computer upstairs, I've got a computer downstairs. We're yelling back at each other. Hey.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And I do notice that, if they're having difficulties, I'm not saying completely avoid getting in the ring together, but understand that competitiveness and age differences do play a part in that. It can bring up some good discussions about how to deal with frustration, how to deal with it, and to really put games in their context. I also had issues where they were carrying some of this behavior on their own, and they're playing online. And everybody knows the foul-mouthed kid online, and sometimes the anonymity of the internet and playing games online, they can say some things that they wouldn't say in real life. And if you're walking by their room and you happen to catch this, definitely address it.
Yeah,
it can get carried away, and sometimes kids don't really make the transition between what they're saying online and what they're saying in real life.
Yeah. Well, I want to take it back a little bit too, and just talk to you guys about why is this important? To come to your kids in a place where they're comfortable, because a lot of these kids are comfortable online, and they're spending a lot of time online. And if you don't kind of come to their level every now and then, they're not willing to come to yours. So, I've got a cat, and quick story on this.
You game with
My
your
cat.
cat?
I do not game with my cat, but I've got a cat, and this cat is funny. She wants me to pick her up and pet her when she's eating food.
That is.
And I do that every morning, but that is, it is a game. Okay, she's playing me. She's playing me, but I'm building that rapport on her level that she wants every morning. So um, in the evenings when I pick her up, she doesn't scratch me. But when other people pick her up, she's less patient with them. And it's that rapport building that I'm doing with the cat in this instance that, I try to do in all aspects of my life, especially with my children. So, children, if they have an area and you go into that area, without judgment and just try to connect with them, they're more likely to connect with you when you want them to connect with you.
This is just like playing catch.
Yeah.
It was the same thing.
Yeah.
You're spending that time, you're creating that relationship so that when you hit difficult points,
Yep.
you have a good basis to communicate with them. Like, hey, buddy,
Right.
you've really upset me. That doesn't make as much sense if the only time they hear from you is, discipline, or you're
Yeah.
not spending that fun time.
Yeah. And it obviously creates those teachable moments for ourselves and for, for ourselves to be a good leader, to look introspectively, of course, on things of that nature.
Well, it's the lens that we can view ourselves
Right.
with those fresh eyes and see
Right.
that, we all have those kind of traits.
And it also shows that they can do that in their lives in all kinds of different ways, not just tech wise, that they can build those relationships on someone else's terms. And a great example of this that I've seen with a lot of my friends, and we have conversations about our kids and what's going on. And one of those things is, YouTube. YouTube is real. Kids are watching YouTube more than TV.
That's right.
And quite frankly, it's not really any different. But we've all been by, our kids' rooms where they're watching some other kid play a game. And the common answer is, why are you watching that kid play a game? Why don't you just play it? Why are you watching this? This is silly, right? That's our instant thing, is the dismissal of this behavior as a unnormal, kind of shaming way of responding back. And I even had that for a little bit. I'm like, why are you watching this guy play the game? Why don't you play the game and get good too? But one day it just kind of snapped in me, and I sat down and I just started watching it with him. And it was interesting. It was like watching a TV show.
Well, you bring up a point, and you did
getting better, and you're
in a
all
previous podcast where you're talking about consumption versus creation.
Yeah.
And I think, the knee-jerk reaction as a parent is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you just consuming this? And you're following this guy, and what is this? And sometimes it's a bit ridiculous.
Right.
But you bring a good point, and it is that entertainment value. It is how that they're connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Games are here to stay. And I don't see much difference. The classic joke is sit here and watch this guy play a game all day. Why don't you play it yourself? Well, gee, Dad, why do you watch football? Why don't you get out there and play it yourself? We can be interested in things and not directly engaged. And sometimes we pick up tips, and it is the beginning of searching. They learn a lot about the internet, finding out game codes and searching specific information. Sometimes they do quick run-throughs on some of the games, and it'll teach them some new things. So really, it's developing an investigative and a research thing. It may not be directly in the subjects that you want, but I still think it's important, and there are good skills to have to be able to find what you need on the internet.
Yeah, and there's more that goes into that. They're looking at presentations. People are actually giving a live presentation, and they're learning how to communicate, because communicating through the internet and communicating through a virtual space is their future. They're going to be communicating more this way. And we're starting to communicate more this way all the time. So when I have to look up something for my job, 9 times out of 10, I'll look up a YouTube video on how to do it. And there's some guy in the corner, just like a video game, that is describing how to fix this car or how to fix this computer problem or this programming problem. And it's not very different from how these, video broadcasts are actually playing the games. So there's a lot of, unbeknownst to them, training that's going through this.
Well, it's actually happening right now, isn't it? Right. So
Yeah.
we're post-COVID. Virtual school is a thing.
Yeah.
So they're getting on and speaking and giving presentations in class through it.
Yeah.
Being on video is more common. And, we're talking
In
about
class,
technology and we're talking about bonding with your kid, but it's not just all games, right? We've mentioned before Power School, right? The whole fundamentals of sitting down, another time spending activity is to help your kid with the schoolwork. Sit down and do homework with them, right? So they used to bring it home and they'd be sitting at the table. Well, now they're not. They're sitting in front of a computer. Yeah. And if you're not actively engaged in what they're doing on that computer, whether it is work or play, then you're missing out on something because they're not sitting at your dining room table anymore, scratching it out. And even if they are, how engaged are you? So Power School gives you this beautiful view into every class, what their assignments are, and you can sit down and look at them together, or you can check up on them on the side. But if you look at it together and you go through their grades and find maybe an assignment that they didn't do so well, taking a look over their work. And one coaching method, as a parent, is I try to explain to them, did you ask if you can make up this assignment or retake it? And show them that, engagement in their school, not just, hey, I fired this off and it's done. Talking to their teacher gives them a chance to kind of make up work and get their grade up.
Yeah.
And that engagement and that activity does count as bonding time. That's the old.
Yeah. Hey, pro tip, guys. If you want to know if your kid turned into an assignment, go into their email and look in their sent folders and see if they actually sent an email with that assignment, or if they're on some other platform that the teachers use. Know those platforms, and you should be able to see when your kids actually did submit that assignment. And then you can ask them the question that you already know the answer to. It's like, hey, did you submit this?
Trust but verify.
I did. No, you didn't. I've been in your sent folder and I've been in touch with your teacher. So, technology is a great way now that, I'm glad that I did not have when I was around, because I could fool my mom for a minute.
You changing the F's to an A, a B?
But
which were you? I'm just curious. Did you go, if you got an F and you ever changed one on a report card, did you go the full route to the A, like the whole other side, or did you be like, I'm going to back it off a little bit and make that F a B? And it's a little safer to make it to B. I was just curious.
All right. My kids might be listening.
Well, true. But I was just, nowadays they can't change it.
Well, I didn't do that, actually. I normally didn't have to change too many grades. My grades were pretty good, but my assignment, when I turned my assignments in, was rarely on time. I was the one that did the homework in the class, so I never had to take any homework home, which you can't do now. They're actually limiting time on some of these classes where you have to do homework at home, and you can't do the homework in the class like you used to be able to. But that was my thing. I kind of skated through, so I didn't have to do too many of those changes. But another thing is, it's near impossible to skip school now. If you haven't signed up for text messages from your school to know if your child's in class or whatnot, that's certainly available.
Yeah, they count every absence in the
Power
School as well.
They certainly do. And for those of you that might not have Power School is software that our school districts use. I'm pretty sure it's pretty widely known, but this is software that all the teachers are using in, I think, elementary and middle school, that is keeping up with the grades, the assignments. Most of the teachers put all the assignments in when they're due, homework assignments, things of that nature. So you're really able to get a full view of what your kid's doing in school. Now, some of you listening are going to have kids in different school districts. They might have a different software that does this, but definitely get involved with that. It certainly prevents things from lingering too long, or that that's what John used in his old podcast to find that tech addiction.
What was digging a little deeper? Kids don't always tell you right away.
Right.
So it's like, I got one bad grade and let's look together.
Right.
And guess what? The whole story comes out immediately. That is something that's unprecedented. It didn't exist,
No.
in our time. You'd have to call the teacher, and
These kids are way more accountable than they used to be.
Yeah, they're kind of forced to be.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to be realistic about as well. Is that we have this constant connection and communication. And so when I did find issues, it wasn't, hey, I'm gonna hammer you down. I gave them a timeline to correct it.
Yeah.
And I gave him some ideas of how to correct it, and he came through.
And what I like is you didn't immediately knee jerk and take everything away. You gave you gave an ultimatum, but it was a reasonable one.
It was coming.
It was coming. It was a reasonable one, and it gave him an opportunity to correct that, which was great. So taking the time to connect with your kids, though, is so important through games or through apps. Most of these board games that you guys play at home, they have apps. My family and I, we still play the old school Monopoly, but we'll also just at night just break out a Monopoly game online and we'll play against each other, because the rules are all there. The banker's not there. I can't cheat him out of $500 as a banker. Boo. But it's a good time, and it's a good time to connect. And any time that you see that, your child is interested in some kind of digital thing, maybe the first reaction, is always a knee jerk, especially if that's not your thing, if that's not your bag, if digital stuff is not what you do. The initial reaction is, why is he watching YouTube 20 hours a day? Well, do you watch TV that much? Do you do digital things that much? Sure. Maybe just try and see it,
or ask them about it.
Yeah.
Say, tell me, what is the real big interest in this?
Yeah.
One that we bring up, because again, we keep talking about games, and games are a lot of fun, and it is a great way to bond.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one that kind of it was just a homegrown thing. I'm in the one kid's room and I'm talking, and I hear myself echoing in the other kid's room. So they're on some kind of chat. They were playing some game, but the game had ended, and I hear another voice. And I said, well, who are you guys talking to? Because I want to know. It was their cousins who live out of state and are about similar age. And they had naturally gravitated to some of the similar games so that they could play together. And even after the game's end, they hung out. It was like a phone call.
Oh, that's cool.
Where they got to, really discuss, and they stay in great touch. In fact, I have heard news of like they're coming to visit from the kids first because they're talking to the other kids, and I'm so excited. We're
right.
coming down. And I think that that's amazing because it created even a greater connection. Probably our first friends were our cousins in some way, for a lot of families.
Yeah.
And they're the most similar in age and temperament and upbringing, I guess, to some degree. And so I found that was really neat, that this was something that they completely did on their own, had figured out the technology and where this group channel is. And then once it was established, they were jumping in it to say hey to each other, Hi, hey, are you home from school? Yeah, I'll be on a little bit, or I got to.
Yeah, man, that's a great way to connect with a family that's not around close to you. Absolutely. For them to share an experience, and maybe for even you to share an experience if you know that some of your family are on games and you don't get to see them often. My brother and I, we play games together. I don't get to see him as much as I'd like, but every now and then we'll jump on a game and we'll have fun because it's very similar. We're very similar in how we do things.
FaceTime the grandparents. I mean, we live in a world that you can do these things where, they may not have had as much exposure. So as much as we look down on technology of how it dissolves the family and breaks down communication and can cause some of these problems we talked about, internet addiction and oversharing and all the problems that come from it. There is a lot of really good stuff that you can pull back
used well. It's great. Yeah, I've got a buddy of mine that his kids are off now. They're grown, and one of them is in the Air Force, and he has a Facebook video player that he Facebook's lives his son, and they chat over the Facebook Messenger app.
Wow.
And it is, yeah, it's super cool. It's right there. He has it hooked up on his TV in the living room, and there's a camera that's there that he can see, dad and mom and sister. So it's keeping them connected.
Is it like the Back to the Future TV? You're fired. No. Come on, man. What are you, chicken?
Something like that.
You got the number?
It's not Princess Leia.
Sorry.
It's not anything like that. It's not a hologram. But sure enough, that stuff is definitely coming. And with the metaverse that is coming down the pipe, that we've talked about. And if you don't know what the metaverse is, it's a virtual reality environment that is going to be designed to be more real world usable. So if you've ever seen the movie Ready Player One or read the books Ready Player One, it's supposed to be an unlimited environment
or Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, Lawnmower Man was the first on that I can remember. But that is coming, and it's definitely going to be the kids' future to be in a virtual environment. And we're talking about virtual shopping. So there's going to be stores, there are things you can purchase. Friends are going to meet up there. They're going to go to a gaming room where they're, connected. And all this stuff seems like science fiction, but it's really science fact. It's happening right now. I took my daughter to the Sandbox, which is a metaverse place. You can go to, I believe, thesandbox.com. You download an app on your computer and you can walk around in a virtual environment. And they're right now selling digital art in the Sandbox for millions of dollars.
That's insane.
Yeah. They're selling virtual land for millions of dollars.
Now, I really wonder how that works because, virtual land is not like real land. I mean, there's not just a finite amount of it. That's kind of crazy, but
it's the people that want to be there first,
right.
that are grabbing onto this. And, one thing that I saw was Deadmau5 had a whole section that was already set up there. And I've always found him, who he's a musician, to be incredibly forward on his technological thinking. So he's already thinking about the metaverse and how he can work that into his experiences, his digital experiences with his audience. And these are all things that are coming. So
you're saying we're going to go full circle and then we'll be in the metaverse playing catch with our kids is what you're basically saying.
That's definitely a possibility. I don't think that it's going to replace, the leather glove and the ball for everyone. But that doesn't mean that if I have a split family and, I don't get to see my children all the time, that I can't spend time with them. If they have this kind of connected technology, then I can be there even when I'm not there and, be a positive influence on their life, virtually. But I mean, time is there. The sentiment is always there.
You talk about not being there. There was a news article that was talking. It started, I forget where it all started, forgive me, but basically this guy used to race his dad in one of the games, and his dad had the best time in the game, and his dad had passed away.
Yeah.
And so he would continue to play the game, and of course his dad having the best time,
he's that ghost racer
against his father.
Yeah.
And even as he got better and better and finally could beat it, he refused to beat it because of course it would reset and he would become the standard pace car or whatever, the time to beat.
Right.
So he did not. But as he grew up, he got better and better and was able to race his father for many years after. And I always thought that was a cool example of technology and bonding.
Yeah. Yeah. Even after the fact that ghost is still there. And, I've got friends that have passed away that I can go back and look on their Facebook, and I can remember things that, we did when we were growing up, and see their impact on the world, which is really cool. That never existed when we were younger, but that's definitely going to continue. So your legacy online, whether it's a game or social media or whatnot, the permanence of the internet is always going to be around from here on.
And that's not always a bad thing. Not always.
No, it's not always a bad thing.
Good things that come from that.
Yeah. And
that's what we're focused on, the good things.
That's right.
That's
right. Stuff. So what else have you used to connect with technology for your children?
We have talked about a lot of things. We have the mysterious podcast that never made it, and we were talking about personality tests.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so we
yeah,
we were messing with that at the Myers Briggs and the type, and I had my family take it, and they enjoyed that.
yeah. My
Maybe
family
we'll
took it too,
redo it.
and that was fun because now I can tease my daughter and tease my son and my wife about their personalities, and yeah, that was a fun one. There are all kinds of little fun things that you can do like that too.
Well, even beyond, right? I was talking about the other day, there were things in my childhood, whether they were movies or books that I read that maybe you couldn't find anymore. And now everything's online. So you can find those things. I
Yeah,
mean, whether you're ordering them physically, it's just that whole market has opened up things that you would be like, I'd probably never see that again. Now you can go Google or whatever,
yeah,
run it, search, and
yeah,
sure enough, there it is. I mean, we were making fun of all kinds of, and then probably somebody's already thought about it,
yeah.
So there's this whole set of, it doesn't matter if it was a book or a movie you watched or a comic book or something, it probably exists in some form online somewhere. And I thought that that was really neat to be able to go and share certain things. It could even be old cartoons that were on TV that, you were like, oh, you guys never seen He-Man? Let me show you some
Oh
He-Man.
yeah,
Let me show you what's up.
We're going to binge some He-Man. So yeah, we've done that too on some old things and given them a little pop culture on that. The Apple TV and the Google TV, they stream a lot of that old content, so we don't have to worry about tapes at Blockbuster and
Oh
Be
yeah.
Kind to
Yeah.
Rewind. We don't have to worry about that
Could
anymore.
you even find it? Did they have it available?
Exactly.
And there was so much stuff, but now it's just the breadth is so wide that almost anything. Maybe you guys have found something, that you couldn't locate online. We'd love to hear about it. But for most everything that I've looked up, yeah, and we grew up in the Saturday morning cartoons era.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff. And I have certain memories, and I'll be like, I wonder if that episode played out the way I thought it did, or do I remember that right? And I can pull it up. And a lot of times, though my kids will think it's pretty funny. They're like, you grew up watching this,
Like, this is awful.
Yeah, in comparison to some things that they have now, but it is neat to show them. And
Well, it's neat to see when the kids actually find something that you liked when you were young and
Oh, yeah.
they actually gravitate to it too. So one of the Saturday morning cartoons that I used to like was the old Garfield. And
never like Garfield.
it's an acquired taste, I suppose. But it's
dry.
funny that there's a new Garfield and there's the old cartoons, and my youngest son, he was watching the new ones, and then I just happened to show him the old ones. And man, he liked those so much better, even though they're old and they're
Right.
super grainy or whatever. He watches those. Same thing with Scooby Doo. He was watching the old Scooby Doo's, streaming all of those. But you're right. I mean, where else could you find that stuff but online? And sharing those experiences. Another neat thing that I did with my daughter and I, we both play music, is I got an old iPad and I chocked it full of my old music, and I just let her have it. And she listened, I put, I don't know, 100 hours of music
You
on
made
there,
her a
something like that.
mixtape?
I made her a big mixtape. and she gravitated to one song, and it was like one of my favorite songs growing up. And I said, hey, do you want to learn how to play that? And
Wow.
she was like, yeah. So I taught her how to play that on guitar. And then she had a talent show at her school, and she went up there and played that song for the talent show, and she killed it. And man, it was like such a different connection that I had, with her and music. And, we really bonded. I mean, it was really something. And I don't know if you guys have ever, if you're musicians or not, but there's something about like playing music with your kids is incredible. When you play music, most of the time, the past doesn't matter, the future doesn't matter. You're completely in the present on that time signature at that time. And then when you can share that with your child, or in a band with your child, or whatever, and you're both on the same time at the exact time doing the exact same thing. I mean, it's cosmic connection. It's so cool. especially when you like the same things and you're playing off of each other. It's really fun. So that's another way that I connected with my daughter, and I'm doing that with my younger son too. Um, Actually, I bought him an electric drum kit, and we took music lessons together. And
Sure,
we
sure.
actually watched YouTube videos on how to play different drum fills. And we'll have drum offs. My 8-year-old and I will have drum offs, and it'll be like, all right, if you win, you don't have to clean your room. If I win,
Wow.
I get to clean your room. So I mean, there's stakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Put some skin in the game
There's
there.
stakes,
Yeah.
but it's definitely, we've been connecting, and we've been connecting in the real world, but we've been using the digital world to enhance that connection. And it's been showing him how to search for things. It's been, showing him that there are things online. If he wants to learn about something, it's there. It's
Well,
out there.
you bring up another thing, and you talked about it briefly, and you say, it's not just for when you're there. It's, especially when you're not there. And we live in a day and age where there are a lot of different types of families,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the time that you get to spend and what you can do. But this does create a connection across any distance. And you could find something that you guys enjoy and share together. Gaming comes to mind, but there are tons of other ways.
Right.
And by having that, I mean, it can keep that relationship solid for when you are closer and able to make that physical time. So I think that really needs to be said, is that if you're not getting a lot of time with them, this may be a way to engage, find something common.
Yeah.
And you may be surprised. I mean, a lot of us grew up, now in that age. We watched it come up from the very basic video games to what we have now. And it's cool to share that experience. If you're a gamer dad like us, or, I definitely recommend it. But you're going to have to kind of find some things that they like. I know there was a couple of games that I tried and that I was interested in, and I wanted to get them interested in. Didn't really work out,
Yeah. You have those trial
Um,
and errors.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's going to happen, but don't get discouraged because of it. But do go outside of your comfort zone and try something that purely they're playing. Another real cool thing is there's Steam. Steam is kind of like an online game store, and they allow you the ability to share your games. So my kids will have Steam accounts, and over the years, I've collected a lot of things, and I share that library with them. And I
Hmm.
don't normally think about it. And the other day, I went in there and I saw them playing some games that I used to enjoy, and already beat, and was like, oh yeah. So I instantly had something to talk to them about it. And it's one of them's Trine. I don't know if you ever played it. It's like a puzzle game. It's
Okay.
really a great game because you play one of three characters, and they all have different ways. So you might have a grappling hook, and you got to pull the wheel, and it opens
Okay.
a door
Okay.
and lets something roll out and
Yeah.
cover the other thing. So it's really well done. It's a beautiful game. So there's a lot of these that are out there too. If you've played games before and they pick them up, then you instantly have something to talk about, some communication there where you can say, oh, have you gotten to this level yet? Or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah, and that's really where it's all about, is just, connecting with them on their level. And the more that don't eschew that, and you start connecting with them on their level, the more likely they're going to connect with you on your level. They're going to come out of that and say, all right, he spent the time with me. And that's one thing that I found was when, I play a game with Ethan, or I play a game with Trad. After a little while, it's like, hey man, I'm kind of tired of this. You want to go throw a ball? And they are 99 times more likely to say, yeah, let's go throw a ball.
Well, they get
Then,
set in that habit of time, I've noticed. Like if you
yeah,
started doing something, whether it was playing a game or whatever it was, you'll notice that your kids are automatically engaged. How many times I've started something and they come down, hey, are we going to play? Are we doing a thing? And they're okay, okay. And there's something really fun about that when your
yeah,
kids want to play with you. They
yeah,
want to come continue that relationship and that bond. And even when that kind of goes out, you find something else.
right.
And I also noticed another one that's an extension of it is, for many years I gamed with my brother.
Hmm.
And, being my brother, well, he, as his uncle, has other games that he prefers to play with them. So they actually get some really cool, different interactions and playing different kinds of games that they may like with different, outside of just their dad.
That's cool.
So it really kind of brings it all back together.
And, encouraging that kind of behavior is really what we're talking about today is, encouraging those connections, encouraging that digital time that is actually good and, you know, and that bonds us. The technology is really here to serve us and however way we want to use it. If we want to overuse it, if we want to use it for good, if we want to use it for ill, it's a tool. But we definitely, kids with technology is not a bad thing. It's definitely their future, and us encouraging good habits and instilling those good things of good connections, how to connect well, when to end well. Well, if you're not ending well, when to get off,
And
whatever
that's an
that is.
important one.
Yeah,
Sometimes you got to call it, and you
yeah.
got to say that's enough for right now. And,
In all aspects of our life, when has it been like, okay, now I got to step away from my job because I am too stressed for a minute? I got to go take a break from whatever stress that's happening, whether it's online world, real world, whatever. This is real life skills that you're sharing with them through your connection with them through technology, not just your time, but it gives those teachable moments that you might not even realize are happening. But they're learning from you because you're involved in something that they're
it's
involved with.
something that once you start, you will immediately see the fruits of.
Yeah,
And really, what that relationship and that bonding creates is for, again, those difficult times. And they are going to happen. There are going to be cases where their grades have gone down or they're doing too much of this, and they're gonna have a lot more to listen to and
yeah,
hear when they have that bond with you and they have a connection with you that goes, again, a little bit beyond parenting. I'm not saying anybody had a kid to be their best friend or anything.
right.
I'll tease my kids and say, I got friends, but in a sense they are you, especially as a father and a son or a father and a daughter. You give them a lot of examples in the beginning start of how they form relationships. And so having those positive bonds and activities is going to help you when things are a little bit more difficult as
Yeah.
that relationship gets strained. They get older, they're taking on independence. Anybody that has teenagers know can be a little bit difficult, and having that as the foundation makes it a lot easier to have those candid conversations through
Yeah,
those
and they're
difficult
definitely
times.
going to be more likely to talk to you and to share some of those things if you have that language with them. A, if you have the rapport, but B, if you have that language. So it makes trust but verify easier too, because now you don't have, they're not so defensive. You've already broken down their walls because you're engaging in their life. And now it's like, hey, show me this. And they're like, okay, because they know that how you're going to react to the digital world at that point. But it's really going to build that bond and that trust with your child, and it goes further than just the surface, face to face. It actually comes to them on their level, which is so important to connect with kids on their level.
Yeah, you
um,
really emphasize that because that's the point. You're meeting them at least halfway
yeah.
or going their way. It's easy to get on them about obligations, chores, expectations, as you try to prepare them for adulthood, but allowing them to have some fun and having some fun with them, it really does make the
And
difference.
allowing yourself to have some fun and maybe
Yeah.
stretching yourself a little bit into something that's interesting. Maybe, making that goofy TikTok video is fun. Do it. As long as it's safe and it's healthy and where the boundaries are, go ahead and do it. And, show them the experience, learn with them, learn how to do that, learn how to make an NFT with them, or learn how to make a, Instagram,
Well, now you got to tell them what an
podcast
NFT is.
So, an NFT is a non fungible token, which is a digital way of selling digital information on the blockchain. Yeah, so that's pretty deep.
We're gonna get some pop-up
We
graphics coming up. It's gonna be like pop-up video to explain all of the weird.
we're going to have a lot of pop up videos for some of the crazy stuff going on today. But it's my point is definitely just connect with them, Um, allow yourself to explore, allow yourself to have fun, get a little bit involved with digital. I know a lot of you guys out there are saying, I don't know anything about computers. I don't know about technology. That's okay. As long as you're exploring with them, be a little vulnerable, and that's actually going to go a longer way too. So they can give you something to, tease you about. It's like, oh, hey, you didn't know about this character on this or whatever. When you learn about that and you start building that rapport, it's definitely going to come back to you, and you're going to start to get your own language with your children that may not be real world language, and that's okay. It's fun.
Yeah, and it really it just calls back to that. I think we covered this one all over like a blanket. If anybody can think of any other ones, great examples of bonding with your kids through technology that could be shared, maybe we'll revisit.
Yeah, I know
more.
a lot of you out there are doing this, and you don't even know it yet.
Right.
You're going to listen to this and you're going to say, hey, I do that. Leave the comment below. I want to know some more ways that I can bond with my kids online. So if you guys have something that's really neat that you come up with in your household that's been really fun, I want to try it out. And maybe, we come back
and
to
even
this
if it's one we covered,
that.
we'd love to hear anybody else's story. There are a lot of tech dads out there, and definitely share that along with us. Give us some more feedback, and we'd like to hear those kind of stories, and maybe we'll do like a Q&A at some point and can talk about some of those. So,
man, that'd be fun to do an Ask Me Anything too on that for sure. So guys, thanks for listening to our podcast.
Thank you.
Go out there and have some fun. Happy gaming. And until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm John.
And we're Ask Tech Dad. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you.